You ever have one of those neighbors who treats the property line like it's the Berlin Wall? Yeah, I thought I'd seen it all, until Karen moved in next door and crowned herself queen of the cul-de-sac. First time she accused me of trespassing, I laughed, figured she'd gotten into the boxed wine early. The second time, I realized she was deadly serious. But the third time, man, that's when the neighborhood went straight off the rails. Picture this: perfect Saturday morning, sun peeking through the trees, me with a cup of coffee on the porch, just soaking up the peace and quiet. And then, snap, comes the unmistakable sound of a tape measure whipping open. There's Karen, sunglasses perched on her nose, clipboard gripped like a badge, measuring the fence line like she's about to break ground on a casino. "You realize this fence is 2 feet on my property," she shouts, making sure the squirrels, and probably the next town over, can hear. I blinked at her, trying to remember what universe I'd woken up in. "Karen, this fence was here before either of us moved in," I told her, just keeping it calm. She just scoffed, one of those, "Oh, you sweet idiot" scoffs, and hit me with, "That's what you think." I checked the records. Now, in Karen speak, checking the records means she squinted at Google Maps one night and decided she was an expert. You know what I mean? She storms off, muttering about lawyers and lawsuits, while I'm still sitting there thinking, did that actually just happen? Next morning, I wake up and find my yard looking like a minefield, bright orange flags everywhere, like some deranged prospector had been through. That's when it clicked. Karen had gone full HOA and filed a formal complaint, saying my fence was eating up common property. I could practically hear the theme from Jaws playing every time I looked outside. The HOA, by the way, is led by Marlene, Karen's best friend and partner in crime. Marlene sends me a letter. "You have 7 days to move the structure." Structure? I called her up, confused. "It's a fence, Marlene." She gives me that syrupy, "we just want what's fair" voice that makes my blood pressure spike. Karen provided evidence, she says, sounding like she's about to read me my rights. The evidence is a crooked cell phone photo and a screenshot from Google Earth, which, let's be real, proves about as much as a fortune cookie. But now it's official, and suddenly I'm looking at a bill to move a perfectly good fence that's been there 15 years. Well, I wasn't about to let Karen and her clipboard bully me out of $1,000, so I did what any reasonable person would do. I hired a real surveyor. When I told Karen, she actually grinned, like she was about to win HOA Powerball. "Good idea," she smirked. "So when it proves I'm right, you'll have no excuse." Honestly, her confidence was almost cute. The surveyor, a laid-back guy named Jim, shows up a few days later, setting up his tripod while Karen paces around with a binder stuffed with who knows what, acting like she's about to teach a master class in property law. She's hovering over Jim the whole time, whispering to me, "You know, when he confirms it's on my land, I'll need you to take it down immediately." No hard feelings. I just nodded. "Sure, Karen. No hard feelings." But you should have seen her face when Jim finished measuring, turned to both of us, and said, in that calm, no-nonsense voice, "According to the county records, the fence is actually 2 feet inside your property line. You could have moved it closer if you wanted." Karen just stared at him, mouth open, like she'd accidentally sat on a tack. "Wait, what?" she stammered. Jim checked his notes again. "Nope, you're good," he told me. "But, Karen, your shed? It's about 18 inches over the property line onto his lot." Dead silence. For a second, I swear. Even the birds stopped chirping. Karen's jaw just hung there. She muttered something about old blueprints and honest mistakes, then stormed back inside, slamming the door behind her so hard a squirrel fell out of the tree. Jim started packing up, grinning. This happened a lot. I asked him. He just laughed. "You'd be surprised, man. Property lines bring out the best in people." By the next morning, every orange flag had mysteriously disappeared from my yard. So had Karen's attitude, at least for a couple days. But here's the thing, Karen doesn't lose. She reloads. A few days after the survey, I come home to a fat envelope taped to my door, stamped with the HOA logo like it's a foreclosure notice. Inside is a letter from Marlene, written in her best "I'm not angry, just disappointed" tone. Due to recent boundary concerns, all homeowners must provide proof of property lines within 10 business days. Yeah, right, this isn't about the community. This is about Karen's bruised ego. So I head over to the so-called HOA office, which is really just a glorified tool shed behind the clubhouse. Smells like burnt coffee and desperation. Marlene's there, shuffling a stack of blank papers, pretending she's running the Pentagon. I ask, "You really making the whole neighborhood jump through hoops because Karen doesn't like my fence?" She gives me that tight-lipped HOA smile. "It's about fairness, Mr. Benson. We want to be sure everyone is compliant." Compliant or compliant with Karen's mood swings? I shoot back. Her smile falters, but she doesn't answer, which is all the answer I need. Here's the best part. My neighbors are furious. Not at me, at Karen. Turns out, nobody likes paying for unnecessary surveys. And suddenly, the neighborhood Facebook page lights up. If Karen wants my fence moved, she can move it herself, one neighbor posts. Another says, this is why she never gets invited to block parties. Even the retired city engineer 2 doors down chimes in with. She couldn't read a plat map if it was printed on her coffee mug. But does Karen let up? Nope. She shows up again. This time in a reflective vest, like she's leading a highway crew, and hands me a map she claims is the original plat. Looks like something her grandkid doodled during math class, with north pointing west and my fence drawn in purple crayon. Karen, I say, this looks like a third-grade art project. She snaps, it's from the city archives. I pull up the actual county map on my phone and set it next to hers. Why does yours have your name written in bubble letters? She grabs it back, muttering about confidential documents, and storms off. And just when I thought we'd hit peak crazy, she takes things up another notch. Next HOA meeting, which I only went to because my neighbor bribed me with homemade cookies. Karen stands up, waving a folder like she's about to expose Watergate. This community has been living a lie, she yells. Our boundary markers are all wrong. I have proof. She slams down another map, this one covered in official-looking stamps. For a second, I actually think she's got something. But then the retired city engineer squints at it. Karen, these stamps are from the Parks Department. And the font's Comic Sans. The whole room cracks up. Karen's face goes red as a fire truck. She storms out, muttering about conspiracies and cover-ups. Should have ended there, right? Nope. 2 days later, I get an email from the county assessor. Apparently, Karen had tried to file an official boundary correction for the entire street, under her own name. The clerk calls me, laughing. Sir, did you authorize Karen Miller to modify your property record? I almost spit out my coffee. Absolutely not. The clerk sighs. We figured. She sent us a crayon drawing. I swear, even the county office was in stitches. At that point, it wasn't just a bad sitcom, it was war. Karen had crossed into full-blown delusional bureaucracy. I decided, that's it, time to end this once and for all. So, I started digging, figuratively, not literally, and what I found blew the whole mess wide open. I went down to the county office, pulled the original subdivision plat, and right there in black and white, Karen's property line had already been corrected 10 years ago. Guess who signed off on it? Karen herself. Turns out, she knew the truth the whole time. She just liked the drama. I made enough copies to fill a binder thicker. Then Marlene's rule book and waited for the next HOA meeting. That meeting was standing room only. Half the neighborhood came, some brought popcorn. Karen strolls in late, sunglasses on, clutching her clipboard like it's the nuclear codes. Before she can even open her mouth, I stand up, slap the binder on the table, and say, I'd like to enter some documents for the record. Marlene starts to protest. That's not on the agenda, but I just keep going. Here's proof, certified by the county and signed by Karen Miller herself, that her property line was corrected and approved over a decade ago. Dead silence. Then a neighbor in the back yells, she did this to me too. Another waves a fine notice. She made me move my shed. Suddenly, the whole room erupts, people waving their own HOA letters, demanding answers. Marlene tries to keep order, but it's like watching someone try to stop a tornado with a tennis racket. Karen starts shrieking. Association. Be my guest, Karen. But karma wasn't quite finished. 2 weeks later, a city inspector showed up at her place. Turns out, somebody had anonymously reported that infamous shed. Measured it, nodded, slapped a bright orange notice on the door. Structure must be relocated or removed. Oh, the poetic justice. Karen tried to argue, swore I'd move the earth to cheat the line. The inspector just smiled. Ma'am, the planet doesn't rotate that fast. A few days later, I sat on my porch and watched her hire a moving crew to drag her shed 2 feet to the left. Every thud of a hammer sounded like victory. That weekend, the neighborhood threw a little party. Cupcakes with candy fences, lawn chairs lined up at the old property line. Even the HOA board showed up. New president, by the way, and actually apologized for the whole circus. As for Karen, her orange flags are gone, the clipboard's retired, and rumor has it she joined another HOA across town. Lord help him. Sometimes, late at night, I'll sit out back, look at my perfectly legal fence, and just smile. Because, in the end, all it took to topple a wannabe tyrant was a patient surveyor, a few public records, and a whole lot of neighborly persistence. Well, that, and a little cosmic payback. So let me ask you, where do you stand when it comes to neighbors and rules? Was I right to fight back, or should I have just moved the fence and called it a day? Drop your stories and opinions down below. And if you want to see more tales of HOA revenge, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and let's keep this wild ride going. I'll see you in the next story, where justice tastes just as sweet and the drama's even juicier.